machine would be our Kioptrix. That would be level 5, which is the last series of our Kioptrix. And over here, we're going to use our Kali Linux machine. And through the net discover, I identified that the IP address is 192.168.0.109. And we have an interface over here, which is saying it works. And yeah, in the source code, we have only a simple HTML code. So the first thing first we're going to do is we're going to scan the entire network. And the IP address. So this machine has totally a different machine. We're going to try to solve this machine in a different environment also. Environment means user agent. Some of the application are runs in a different environment, different user agents. So we have to simply recall or simply jump to the environment according to the application. So that will be a later part, but let's have a look over here on the Nmap scan. And only which I can see, it has the port number 22, which is closed over there. Port 80, which is over there, and it's showing us it's a free BSSID. And they are running Mode SSL version 2.2.1 and Open SSL version this. And there is a port 8080, which is also open. So over here, I can see only the port 80. But if I jump to the port 8080, it's saying you are forbidden. You don't have the permission to jump over there. Why I said the different environment? Because some of the applications, some of the web server, which runs in a different user agent according to the version. So we're going to try to penetrate one by one all the things over here. So this over here, we have forbidden, we have it works, but in the source code, there was nothing, just a normal part. Let's have a look on the Nicto part. Nicto-h host and the IP address. So through the Nicto, we can identify which are the services which is running in the server side, which can be used for the further stages. And over here, what I can see, it has OpenSSL, Mode SSL, which is outdated. This is also outdated. Allowed get head post option and trace, which we already have discussed yesterday. We have the host is vulnerable to XST, HTTP trace. And over here, we can see this is a dev server. Mode SSL 2.8.7 are lower vulnerable to a remote buffer overflow, which may allow to execute remote code execution. See, 2.8.7, and over here, it's 2.8.21. So it will not work. The lower you can check. So we have an interface over here. Let's try if we can simply perform a brute force attack on the dietary buster. So we're going to use the buster over here. The major cause, we have to think about all the things one by one. So let's copy this one, paste it over here according to the threads. Let's use the dictionary. So it will be user share word list. Let's use the buster medium and the PHP. As we know that this application was running PHP on the server side. Let's see what we can find over here with the help of the buster. So over here we can see we didn't find anything relevant over there on the server. the buster has been stopped. Why? Because the port 80 is for the interface, but the connection works over the port 8080. See, you can see only the errors. They didn't find any directories because the port 8080, which makes a connection between the clients, has been stopped because it's not making a connection. Connection timeout instructions. So, as per the data, let's have a look on the robot.txt files. Sometimes we have to check the crawlers if you can find something relevant data. Okay, so I was not able to find robot.txt on the server. So we have port 80 and port 8080. So what could be the possibilities? We have tried the crawling part. We have tried the other further things, but we didn't have the access. So sometimes we have to think out of the box. So our major objective of this one is to simply check all the possibilities one by one to identify the host and the OPT part. So when I look for the data, see, when we look for the source code, we can see there is a URL which is given over there. Some of the data which is given on the server side in the backend server, and we have to check the source code also, because sensitive or server misconfiguration, some sensitive information can be leaked on the backend when the developers are forget. So over here we can see they have given a URL which is your pchat 2.1.3 and index.php. So let's have a look on there. As a security analyst, you have to check all the possibilities one by one, which can be lead us for information getting part. And there are different kinds of things. For example, if a pchat is running, which is your pchat 2.1.3, so first of all, never go for the exploiting part. Go for the information. What exactly the application do. We're gonna check this one later on, but what exactly the pchat is over here. Pchat is just like your commenting communication part over here. You can see this is a normal application. First deploying or testing for an application, just read about the manual. But if we're going for the black box pen testing, we doesn't know. So we have to gather information as much as possible before the exploiting part. So click here example, normal things has been given one by one. Chatting with pchat. So let's have a look over here. Let's see what vulnerability we can find. Multiple vulnerabilities are there from the year of 2000. So the author is well as McKinney, exploit ID number with the year 2014. So what exactly this vulnerability over here? PHP library pchat 2.1.3, possibly previous versions are default, contains an example folder. Okay, where the application is vulnerable to directory traversal and cross-site scripting. Directory traversal is an attack where an attacker simply jumps the folders to gain the sensitive information from the server side, which is a folder part. It is possible that the custom-built production code contains similar problems with the uses of the library. Was copied from the examples. The examples author engaged the vendor before publicly disclose the vulnerability consistency and the vendor release of official fix. The IT traversal. We can see the tag which is over there. It was on the examples folder, index.php with the action parameter. This is the action parameter, which has a value, again a parameter over there, and which has a value over here. The etc password which is given is simply your gain folder of your etc folder, which contains the username credentials, and they have encoded the details. Let's have a look. Let's use Burp Suite to decode this one. What exactly the percentage 2f means. Let's go to decoder. Let's do decode as URL. See, the percentage 2f was just a forward slash. Some of the pen tester, if they simply encrypt the first letter because some of the data has been blocked over there from the server side. So we basically encrypt the delimiters to bypass the web application firewall. So over here, you can see access to the source code, hard-coded password to other high impact consequences depending on the web server configuration files. This problem exists in the production code if the example was copied in the production environment. So if I talk about the vulnerabilities, it's all about the poor codes. 90 tables are remediations. Update the latest version of the software, remove the public access to the example folder with the applicables, and use the web application firewall for similar technology to filter out the malicious input. This is the important part. The web application firewall. So let's try this one. Can we get access? We have example folders with the index.php. Let's try with, yes, over here. Let's try if we can gain access to the etc password. And we are able to gain the credentials of our etc password over here, which is given one by one. So our major objective would be to simply do one by one. Root, Tor, daemon, operators, bin, these are the system users. OSM, OSEC. So our major objective is to simply penetrate the skills one by one, which can be lead us for part over here. So over here we can see they have some given some default users, OSAC, OSM, and OSEXA. So we can simply gain information about all the things. So let's try something more. What kind of information we look for? But remember, this is a free BSD. Free BSD is just like your Linux system, but it's a different operating system. Free BSD. FreeBSD is free source, open source Unix-like operating system designed for Berkeley software distribution, which is based on the research Unix. What is FreeBSD used for? Any operating system is mainly used for application. FreeBSD provides all the critical operating environment for the application. It supports many applications like mail readers, office suites, web browser, programming environment, graphic programs, networking server, etc. It most used on server softwares. So our major objective would be to penetrate all the things one by one. It's all about information getting part. So according to the port number, if I'm a hacker or a pen tester, we have access denied with the port 8080. So what we can do? We have to think, if we have a proper directory traversal attack, what we can do? Let's have a look. LFI, Metasploit. File inclusion vulnerability, which comes in our remote file inclusion and LFI. So remote file inclusion and local file inclusion are the vulnerabilities that are often found in the poorly written web application code. This vulnerability occurs when a web application allows the user to submit input into the files and upload files on the server side. See, LFI allows an attacker to read and sometimes execute files on the victim machine. This can be very dangerous because if the web server is misconfigured and running the high privileges, the attacker may gain access to the sensitive information. And if the attacker is able to place code on the web server, the other means that they'll be able to execute arbitrary commands, the malicious commands. And same thing through the RFI, an attack can get possible over there. So which kind of files we look for? We look for etc issue, etc proc version. Sometimes if we try to get etc issue will provide you some information like your username and password sometimes, but not possible. Nope. Let's try version over here. Proc version, that was procedure version. Let's try proc over here. Nope. etc profile, etc password, some hash files. You have to check all the things one by one. So our main objective would be, can be able to get the configuration file of our Apache server. This is a FreeBSD. Each and every operating system has a different architecture. For example, if you search for your own server, we have a Debian base. So it will be on your etc Apache 2. And you can see the configuration file. etc Apache 2, which has the configuration files on the server side. But in the FreeBSD, it would be different. Each and every environment I was talking about. So FreeBSD, Apache, logs, location. Let's use config location. See this one, configuration and starting Apache in FreeBSD. The main Apache HTTP server configuration file is installed as user local etc Apache 22 HTTP config. This is the proper file path, where X represent the version number. So the X represent the version which is 22. Let's try this one. If we can access the HTTP config file, so we can get the environment code. Why we want the environment code? Because if when we are accessing the port 8080, it was forbidden. So Apache configuration file contains the environment variables where the application will be executed in the different user agent according to the version. It's all about the legacy applications. Some of the legacy applications don't work in the modern technology, so we have to use the old legacy. So let's have a look if we can access this one. Yes, we are. Assembly get the access of user local etc Apache 22 HTTP config file. The path traversal attack, where we can use it for information gathering part. This is the main Apache HTTP server configuration file. This contains the configuration directories that give us the server its instructions. See this one. This is a proper configuration file. Directory user local www Apache data, which contains some possibilities data over here. It's all about the configuration files. But the most important thing you have to look is the environment variables. And I was talking about this. Set the environment variables. They have said if the user agent set environment if the user agent is Mozilla 4.0, Mozilla 4. Browser over here. So virtual host will be connected with the document root where the application configuration files over there, and the directory you can see over here. The major objective of this application was to simply set our rules one by one that could be lead us for other further things. So let's have a look over here. So it means we have to switch our user agent. Let's see which version I'm using. This is version 5. So as a security analyst, as a application tester, you can simply add on some plugins. For example, I'm going to use agent switcher. We're going to use agent switcher over here. Why? Because according to the application, that will work on the environment of 4. So I'm going to use user agent switcher manager. Let's has download this one. See this one. Right now I'm currently using the Mozilla 5.0, and you can see there are other servers also. Chrome, you can select for Firefox, Opera, Edge. You can change your environment variables according to your server. But my major agenda was to change the user agent which I am using right now. That is 5.0. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to change my user agent to 4 according to the environment variables to access. Set. Let's try this one. Let's have a look of port 8080. Yes, now we can access the port 8080 over here because of the environment variables. 4.0, and over here I can see PHP text. So the most important thing is to understand all the possibilities one by one which can lead us for exploiting part. So we have PHP text over here, and our major agenda is to get access to the server, and over here we need to simply gain unauthorized access or information part. So we have a PHP text. So what we can do, we can try to get information about the PHP text, what exactly the PHP text works. Some remote code execution over here, but PHP text is important for us for getting the information. Okay, we have Fortinet. What we can have over here? Because there is nothing. So let me tell you about the PHP. Okay, some of 500. I think Rapid7 is maintaining their website over here. Last 2-3 days, I'm seeing this one. So PHP text is a website which is basically used for taxation part, and if you search for the vulnerabilities, you can look for this one. But over here, the main thing is to find the bugs manually one by one. You have to identify the parameter values over here, which can be lead us for the exploiting part. So we have, there's a PHP text over here, you can see one by one. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use Metasploit over here. So through the Metasploit, we're going to try to gain access if we can find any public exploit over here. Let's try if we can find any PHP text vulnerability on our local server. Let's use search PHP text. And what we have over here, we have PHP text execution. Use PHP text execution part. Let's try options. So over here we have to set something. Let's try PHP text has an PHP execution. PHP execution means we can execute arbitrary commands or simply through the HTTP multiple text. So they are saying our host, which is your target host, the port you want to attack, the PHP text over here. So let's use set our host, the IP address, set our port, that is 8080, and the URI. The URI would be the same thing because we have accessing a proper PHP text over there, which works on the port number 8080. You have to mention all the things. Let's have a look in a proper way. One 192.168.0.109 and port 8080. So let's try the exploit part. And over here, what I can see, sending an exploit on the 10880, sending the request, client connections, and echo. They have created a file. They have writing a socket A, socket B. A proper command has been given, and we can see we have a command shell. Let's try it. Who am I? I'm www. Okay, export term, xterm. We can execute command execution over here. The major objective of this one is to simply gain unauthorized access with the help of the credentials or the informations. We use the PHP extension, but sometimes if we are a good bug bouncer or good web application pen tester, we have to find this one easily because this would be your proper server side application, a web application expert. So over here where we are PWD, let's see, do we have Python? No, we don't have Python. Can we do bin bash? No. Bin bash -i? No. ls-all, yes. Bin bash -i. Bash. Cool. No worry. At least we have a shell over there. So let's see uname -a. So as we know that this application was a free BSD, application that could be lead us for information gathering part. So our major concern would be to check all the possibilities one by one, and that could be lead us for information part. So let's have a try if we can find any public a kernel version which is like this one, your free BSD version 9.0. This application is vulnerable to your kernel exploit as per the PI2. Kernel exploitation are programs that leverage the kernel vulnerabilities in order to execute arbitrary code with level permissions. So let's have a try this one. So let's download free BSD exploit. Let's try the first one. Intel system reset kernel privilege escalation. So this exploit based on the open source project, I can make it open to write. If you are blaming me for sourcing this exploit, you can free for change, credit to Kirpen Corporation. You can see over here they have given the proper path. Some of them maybe feel harmed when we release this exploit. So this is a proper C program. A C program file which is over here. So let's try over here. This one is works or not. Save. Two 8718. Okay. Let's try the Python server. Okay, it works on the port 8000. So let's create our URL over here then. So what will be the URL? So the URL of this file would be our HTTP, our local server IP address, which is hosting this application on the port number 8000. The file name was 28718 dots. So let's have a look over here. So where we are on the root directory. So let's go to the temp directory as per our need. So we are in the temp directory. So I'm gonna remove all the application which I had done last time. Cool. So let's use wget. Wget not found. Okay. So I guess in this free BSD there is no wget command. So we have to find the alternative of wget in free BSD. Wget alternative free BSD. I have two domains with free BSD. I am not able to use them in the non-server updates. Okay, they are using wget. Okay, it's getting some errors. Some FreeBSD embedded system, example PSense, PNS, don't have the curl and wget installed by the default, but fetch is the correct word, which is basically used to fetch the file from the server side. Fetch. The fetch utility provides a command line interface of the binary. Its purpose is to retrieve the files pointed by the URLs on the command lines. Let's use fetch. And that's done. Let's use GCC. Do you have GCC over here? We have GCC. GCC-O exploit output 28718.c. And we can see over here. Yep. Who am I? We are root. Finally, we are root over there. And we can see the congrats.txt, which is the final flag of the Kioptrix level. The lone ferret is always there. Keep in mind, for each web attacks detected by the Infosec, by default it would be blocked by your IP. Both in host allow firewalls. See, If you are reading this one, it means you have got the rooted or cheated. Conversation either way. Hope you enjoyed this one VMs. This helps a lot. The folder monitor.log is just a cheap secret script of mine to track created, deleted, and modified. The HTTP access log is rather self-explanatory. You can try to check all the possibilities one by one. The major objective of the penetration testing of the Kioptrix series is to understand how the real life scenarios works. Because in the real life scenario, you will not get the vulnerabilities. You just have to penetrate if you can get access. This was a vulnerable server, but in the real life thing, there will be no vulnerable.